Hi, welcome to Coffee Break with Researchers. Our conversation today is about a paper on the restructuring of all industrial areas in East Asia. And we will talk with one of his co-authors, Robert Hassink. He's a professor of economic geography at the Christian Albrecht University of Kiel in Germany.
Coffee Break with Researchers presents you with cutting-edge insights on regional development and innovation. We ask researchers directly and in a personal manner about their work. We make scientific knowledge accessible to all.
Hello, Robert. Thank you for accepting this invitation to a coffee break. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for inviting me.
I am having a black coffee from Costa Rica. Are you having any coffee today?
No, I actually don't like coffee. I drink green tea instead.
That's good to know. I want to talk with you about a paper you wrote in which you analyze how regions get locked in. Could you please tell me the main idea of the paper?
The paper is an empirical study on lock-ins and the role of lock-ins in the restructuring of old industrial areas. And I looked in this paper at 4 regions with a strong industrial concentration in Germany and in South Korea. And I looked at 2 sectors, shipbuilding and textile industry.
I understand that the key notion of the paper is being locked in. Could you please provide us with a definition of this?
Yeah, lock-in is a concept that has been introduced into academic science by evolutionary economists a long time ago. They were focusing on technological lock-ins, but it's particularly Gernot Graper in his famous study on the ruhr area in the early 90s who introduced this concept into economic geography and regional economic development. And it refers to mechanisms we can find in regional economies that lead to the hindrance or blocking necessary restructuring processes in old industrial areas. And to give you an example, in the case of the ruhr area and also some other old industrial areas, we've seen during a long time heavy lobbying for subsidies to support the main industry in the regional economy, which led to a negative part dependence and actually the lack of restructuring in these areas.
Thank you for clarifying that. And which ones would you say are the main findings of the paper?
My main findings were that it's actually difficult to generalize about the factors having an effect on the strength or weakness of regional lock-ins. My expectation was actually that, for example, the specific characteristics of the industry would affect the strength of the lock-ins. For example, in the case of shipbuilding, because of large enterprises, a strong influence of labor unions, and also a heavy spatial concentration in certain regions, I expected strong regional lock-ins, whereas in the case of textile industry, I expected very weak lock-ins because that industry is characterized by small and medium-sized enterprises and the weaker role of labor unions, for instance.
And which one was the main motivation you had for doing this research?
My main motivation started actually in the early 1990s when I did my PhD. At that time I did research on the restructuring of old industrial areas, particularly in the ruhr area, and I read this paper I talked about by Gernot Graper, and I found it very fascinating, this concept, and particularly the explanations for a lack of restructuring and a lack of adjustment and adaptation in old industrial areas I liked a lot. But I also noticed that although this concept has been very popular, it was not researched in other industries and in other regions. So my aim was to find out whether we find these kind of regional lock-ins not only in the ruhr area, but also in other old industrial areas, in other countries, and also in other industries, as I said, shipbuilding and textile industry.
And could you please tell me which ones were the main policy implications of your findings?
One of my findings was also that regional lock-ins actually are influenced by actors, political and policy actors at several spatial levels. So not only the local and regional level plays an important role, but also the national and, in the case of Europe, supranational level plays an important role. So in order to understand this phenomena of regional lock-ins, we need to do research on several spatial scales, which was not done that much in the case of the Ruhr area in the study by Gernot Grabherr.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. Those were all my questions. I want to thank you once again and for having this time to chat with me, and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. It was my pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you're interested in more details about this academic publication, you can find here the link below. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our podcast on Spotify. See you next time. Bye-bye.